See, a healthy planet needs everyone to help. It's not just me alone, nor the people over here. It's everyone's responsibility that we all need to come together to create a healthy planet. And to protect our environment, people and business first must know how to be more sustainable. And Grivine believes teaching about sustainability is very, very important. And that's why we are really excited to announce a strategic collaboration with EcoJeevan. Together, we will work to teach people and organizations on how to adopt sustainability. Together, we will help people and organizations to learn about being green and make good choices in building a sustainable planet. This is a very big step. Uh, this is a very big step for us in building a sustainable future for every one of us. So thank you so much for joining with us, and we are really excited about this collaboration in helping people and organizations to learn about sustainability. So, in my introduction itself, I might have mentioned the word sustainability about, say, 5 times. So, uh, how do we? So, let me start with this question to Srikanth. What is sustainability, and why is everyone talking about it?
So, thank you, Prasad, for asking this because when we speak about sustainability with the context of today's environment, it will be a good idea to go back probably a century when industrialization came into existence. Because that was actually the start of the whole thing. Industrialization actually triggered a paradigm shift in the way lives were lived by people because it offered people a lot many opportunities for jobs, for businesses, for income. The overall lifestyle went on improving for, or so they thought. But in the entire process, if we consider the last 1 century, what probably happened is that we have been actually abusing the resources of nature that nature has offered. In fact, we have been treating these resources as if they are an inexhaustible source and compound that with the growing population that we have been facing for the last 1 century and the social disparity which actually came up should come up as a surprise in the last 1 century. That all brings us to a stage today where we seriously need to think about how to go ahead now, because otherwise it's not a very bright picture in the future. So, and in this entire process, what we've forgotten is that nature and human beings have always coexisted. What we seemed to have forgotten in the last 1 century is
Mhm.
that for thousands of years, we have coexisted with nature in a very healthy manner. That
Yeah.
balance has been spoiled in the last 1 century. And so, just in a nutshell, sustainability in very simple terms means responsible behavior by all of us by treating the resources very, very carefully, by utilizing the resources very carefully, because we've got to meet our demands, our requirements. So, utilizing different resources very carefully for meeting our requirements today, but at the same time, not compromising it in such a way that the supplies get affected for our future generations. So, that in a nutshell is a very, very simple definition for sustainability, if I can say.
I think it's very simple and something as a common man can really understand. And when it comes to sustainability, I think it's very close to what even UN talks about it. And UN
Yeah.
talks about another thing which you said about that they have defined these responsibility into 17 parts of goals, which
Yeah.
otherwise they call it as SDG, Sustainability Development Goals. And our partnership today, what we are talking about, is also a part of one of those SDGs, the SDG 17, right? And I'd love to have your thoughts about this particular SDG 17 and why about its significance on it.
Right. So, as we talk about SDG 17, let's go back again, let's say for 3.5 decades. Let's go back to 1987, when for the first time, the Brundtland Report was tabled at the United Nations. This was the first time that at that forum, a few warnings were sounded out, because the few warnings of
We're talking about 1987, which is about
1987,
this is about
more than
47
35
years.
years back. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that was the first time that the Brundtland Report specifically pointed out the risks that were coming our way because of globalization and industrialization. So the wake-up call was way back in 1987. 2010 saw the launch of the MDG, that is the Millennium Development Goals. And these goals were targeted towards, let's say, poverty, better health, better education, less disparity in the social strata, gender equality. And 2015 was the target. But now I think it has been refined. And the SDG 17 is special because a total of 193 signatories are there. 193 states are now involved in implementation of this. The target is for 2030. So SDG 17 becomes very special because it has a global implication now with 193 signatories. And talking about SDG 17, 17 because 17 goals have been sustainable development goals. 17 of them have been defined by the United Nations. And these 17 goals have been distributed more or less on three pillars of SDG, if you can call that. So the first pillar, maybe we can say the pillar with the environmental aspects perspective, where the goals that have been set are about treating the resources as exhaustible resources, which means taking enough care to save water, to save renewable energy, and probably even the implication goes to more responsible way of construction, a more sustainable way of construction, a more sustainable design aspect when you talk about architecture, so on and so forth. So that is the environmental aspect. The second aspect of SDG is the social pillar, if I can say. Now, this targets towards quality of life in principle. So we are talking about better healthcare services, better education, gender equality, and overall a better quality of life. That's the second pillar of SDG 17. And the third is, of course, the economical, because finally it's all about businesses. So the economy perspective of the SDG 17, where we actually address to the points right from finance to agriculture to service industry to the product manufacturing, in tourism, you name it, and it is all there. So the SDG 17 is an all-inclusive it's an all-inclusive approach for a better and a sustainable future. And in fact, this approach is now a global approach, which makes it all the more important for industry to actually ensure that the SDG 17 reaches a level of conscious awareness with all its workforce. Everybody has to know about SDG 17 because the implications are future generations, and which is why we into that training aspects of SDG 17 now.
Absolutely. I completely agree because if anyone visits Grivind, every product of it has at the bottom what SDG goal does this product help in achieving towards. And it is very, very important for every one of us to know and learn about these 17 SDG goals. It is as simple as someone learning to speak, and as someone who's learning to live, they have to learn about these SDG goals. So thank you
So,
so much for that. I think that is where it's very important on these SDG goals. And I'm sure we have together built, there is a program, right? A training program,
yeah,
which builds around these SDG goals. And there are three modules that we've built. So can you just
correct.
little bit talk about this trilogy and what difference is there in each of these modules that has been built for this training program?
Yeah, so when we thought about addressing to the aspects of sustainability, the most logical approach was to address the sustainability issue at all levels in the hierarchy of corporate. And that's how we designed, we came up with this trilogy. Because the first step of trilogy is the very basic, where we carry out a sensitization program about the SDG 17. The trainees who attend get to know more about the 17 goals. All of the 17 goals are discussed in detail. We also talk about why we have all arrived at this situation now, and how do we to approach this new problem so as to have a good future. Now, what happens here is, because the entire workforce, if they attend this program, the general conscious awareness in the entire industry, in that corporate, will be there, and people will start behaving with this knowledge of sustainability, behaving responsibility. So, the stage one is the sensitization program, wherein the target audience is the entire workforce of any industry. Step two is targeted at, let's say, middle level management. Here, what we do is we discuss the sustainable development goals that that particular industry has identified for its own self. Because, I mean, it's not like 17 goals are pursued by an industry. 4 or 5 goals may be identified, and then that particular industry works towards achieving those goals. So, this is a program where we talk with the middle level management, because they are the direct stakeholders in the implementation of this sustainability drive of that industry. Now, to make that more impactful, what we've done is we conduct this program at an outdoor location in Goa. The location is itself an excellent example of sustainable lifestyle. So you get to live in mud houses. People
Yeah.
get an actual feel of the sustainable lifestyle there. They grow, we eat what they grow there. You know, all the concepts of sustainability, typical sustainability. People will get a first-hand feel. One, and the contents of this program are tweaked to to suit the requirements of that particular organization, where we will discuss the particular goals that have been identified by that organization. So it is assumed that the trainees for this stage are aware of the SDG 17, and we discuss the particular goals set by that industry. Also, we discuss the legal compliances and the legal implications, the statutory things that are involved now in the SDG 17. So that's the part two. We call it Back to the Future. The
Mm.
third one targeted at the leadership file of the corporate. Now, when I say leadership here, it does not mean it's not related to the age aspect of the participants. Leadership, when I say, it means the target audience is the rank and file of the employees who have been identified for future leadership. And this is conducted at Painch Tiger Reserve. It's a 2 night or a 3 night program, depending on how it is. It needs to be customized for the organization. This particular schedule has, we've been inspired by two concepts. One is a book by Dr. Kathleen Allen, Leading by Roots, and the second is the concept of Shinrin Yoku. That is, it's a Japanese concept which means forest bathing. So we got inspiration from these two concepts, and the overall schedule has been is woven around these two concepts. Now, in this particular training, there are no PowerPoint, no classroom sessions. This is a complete outdoor mode where we bring the trainees close to nature, absolutely close to nature, where they get a first-hand feel of the sustainability that nature has practiced through centuries and thousands of years. And we also have included social connect with the local communities. We also have a few hands-on activities that we have planned in this module. And most importantly, we also have a personality assessment for the participants. So the personality assessment is in connection with the kind of traits that a person has, and of course, we have an expert who then counsels each participant separately about that assessment. So this module is in Pinch. So that completes the this
One
is
of
for
those
the
training
really.
programs sitting in an AC condition and all those contribute the plastic bottle in front and all those. This is not those kind of regular training programs. It is amongst the nature trying to help and make people learn about the thing.
Absolutely close to nature. Absolutely close to nature. Believe me, the participants will not have experienced anything like this. That's the kind of the schedule that we have chalked out for this particular. We call it leadership reflections, the sustainability.
And what's the duration of the program?
Typically for this, it can be 2 nights, 3 days, or 3 nights, 4 days, depending on how the corporate is comfortable. We actually advise 3 nights and 4 days, but then we also understand the constraints of practicality involved in that. So, but 2 nights and 3 days also, we can actually deliver this without diluting any of the content.
So one is this training part of it that we are explaining to all the three levels of the organization employees. Now,
Correct.
can we together take up a role as a consultant or a mentoring agency for the overall sustainability drive that can be defined with any industry? You say.
Yeah, actually, yes. In fact, we are being asked this question even by a couple of corporates now already, because honestly speaking, the conscious awareness about this concept is yet to sink in the Indian. I mean, the word is already a buzz, but people are yet to come to terms with the term sustainability. So we do have a good team, a team which has a good industrial background, a psychology background, an environmental background. So as a team, we can actually take up the role of an advisor for industry in their pursuit of sustainability. That certainly can happen. And that, needless to say, it will be customized always to the needs of that particular industry. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think, Savita, I come to you because
Yeah,
when Srikanth talked about this leadership training for the employees and all, it's also
right,
important that there is a reflection that happens within them, right?
right,
And so, can you talk about as to this module, especially that we built for the leaders? What is
right.
this leadership reflection module? Yeah.
Now, leadership reflections, as Shrikant mentioned, has been inspired by two concepts. One is a book written by Dr. Kathleen Allen. Now, why that particular book is when I went through the book, what I realized is that she has written the book after getting inspiration from India in Meghalaya, where she talks about the living bridges. And that's where she got the inspiration. And she has a very interesting take on the sustainability. I think even before the people started talking about sustainability. So, what she's
Mhm.
written about is how we can learn from nature, how nature has all the answers for all the challenges in the environment, and how we can bring those learnings back to the organization. Because many a times people ask us that, okay, we learn from nature, but what do we do after that? So in this particular module, what we do is we ask them how they can relate this to their organizations, or like Shrikant mentioned, the industry will define a few goals for themselves in that particular year. So how they can relate it to that and how they can implement it in their own organization. Because many a times in training programs, what happens is that people go there, experience the training, they have a few takeaways also. But then when they go back to their hometowns or go back to their organizations, they don't know how to implement that. Here, what we will be doing
Yeah.
is we will be taking them outdoors, helping them experience the nature, and we will be brainstorming a few ideas there as to how these can be implemented in their organization. To give you an example, there is a concept that she has mentioned, which says that there is nothing goes waste in nature. So there is zero waste in nature. Everything goes back into the nature. Now, this sounds
Yeah.
very simple, or this sounds like, okay, yeah, maybe nature can do this. Then, can we also implement a similar thought process? So, we kind of discuss the steps as to how we can bring it back to our organization. So, that is where the reflection happens. And that is where we are targeting this at a leadership level, where people are already experiencing those challenges and they want to find solutions for that. So, that is one concept that can be brought back to the organizations. And the second
Is
one,
this
yeah,
biomimicry thing? Are you talking about biomimicry?
not exactly, because
Biomimicry,
biomimicry
yeah,
talks
sorry.
about Yeah, I think maybe Santosh can explain the biomimicry thing, but biomimicry talks about actually making of products or making of concepts which are the inspiration is taken from nature. Here we are talking about the lessons that we can bring to our organizations. So Santosh can throw a little more light
Okay.
on biomimicry, maybe.
Can we just have one example kind of a thing which probably it'll help the viewers to understand what exactly is this?
Yes, Santosh, please.
Yeah, so when we talk about biomimicry, we actually learn from nature about the engineering part of it, how nature solves different problems which are there. And since now billions of years since evolution, nature has perfected all these systems. So
Yeah.
how we can learn from nature and we can implement it to our organization, or we can solve our problems using technologies from nature. The most common example or the most known example is of the bullet train, if you must have heard. Uh, when this bullet train was being developed in Japan, when it was operated, it had a problem that when it used to come out of a tunnel, there used to be a sonic boom,
Mhm.
right? So the residents living nearby, they used to face a big noise whenever the train exited from the tunnel.
Yeah.
So this problem was looked up by one of the engineer who was also an avid birder. So he took inspiration from the kingfisher. If you see the kingfisher, uh, it also travels from a rarer medium to a denser medium. That is for hunting. It goes from air to water. It dives into the water and it picks the fish. But while doing that, if you see it glides so smoothly through these mediums that it hardly creates any ripples or any disturbance in the water without the fish knowing that it is being attacked. So the beak of the kingfisher was studied, and similarly, the design of the bullet train was modified. The front, if you see, it is similar to the kingfisher. So when that design was adopted, this issue of sonic boom was completely eliminated. So when the train entered the tunnel now, the nose or the beak shaped to the front of the train, it eliminated all the sonic boom. So this is one classic example of biomimicry. Whereas what we are talking about is are the different processes in nature that happen, how the nature operates. Now everybody is talking about circular economy. So what is
Yeah.
this circular process? It already exists in nature. So these are the concepts which we can easily bring to the organization. Biomimicry, yes, it is one of the aspect, but mostly the other larger principles which operate. Even the concepts of food chain, food web, how those can be brought into the organization on an operational level. So that is what we will try to focus in this particular module.
Great, great. So
Yeah.
let me also ask you this little question. Now, leaders can be at different levels in terms of their personality towards sustainability, right? There can be one can be very close to the nature, one can be a very business focused. They can be at different levels of it. So why do you think is this personality assessment should be a very important part in the module? And how is it relevant and what will it achieve in this program?
Right. Now, the personality assessment that we are talking about here will be conducted by the institute. This institute in Pune has developed this test for the Indian population, and
Okay.
it is very relevant to the Indian population. So, what this test will throw light on is your leadership style, the way you communicate with people, the way you delegate, your overall thought process as a leader. Because many a times, when you are at a leadership position, we normally consciously don't think about our leadership style or how we delegate or what impact does our delegation style have. But this report will be in such a way that this will kind of give you the details of these traits. And when we talk about taking lessons from nature and bringing them back to the organization, I think that will help the leaders understand themselves so that they're in a better position to implement the learnings that they will have in these sessions. So there'll be a brainstorming session where we'll talk about how to implement this, and the leaders, as per their own style, can decide how to implement this in the organization. Because like you said, leaders will be from different levels of experience, knowledge, their expertise. So based on that, they'll be in a position to implement that in their organization. So I think this assessment will be a little more relevant there. And once we submit the assessment report, I will be also talking one-on-one with each one of them, just to help them understand the report better, so that they're able to implement it in their organization. Secondly, I also feel that it helps on a personal level. For you to understand yourself, I think it helps on a personal level as well. So we are hoping to serve both these purposes through that assessment.
And what is an expected size of the participants usually should be in this kind of a module?
Now, considering that this is a reflections module, we are looking for a smaller batch. So what we'll be focusing on is like 10 to 15 participants, because that way they will be bringing different things to the table. The brainstorming sessions will be there, and the discussions will be more fruitful, because it's a lot of experience sharing as well. So we'll be looking at a batch of maximum 15, and that's what we are thinking for this particular module. Whereas for the first two modules, that may not be the case.
Great. So there's another important question with, along with sustainability, there's a lot of terms that is being used today, and that word is called as biodiversity. I think you are an expert in this, and I'd love to understand and also learn from you, why is this biodiversity important?
Right. So, see, we first need to understand that we humans, we are also, by definition, one animal. Right? There are 8.7 million species of plants and animals on this planet, of which we are one. We are one species. So if you see the Earth, and it has all these 8.7 million species, so it is quite a diverse kind of ecosystem. And when we talk about this biodiversity, what now is happening is, because of the industrial development, because of our constant developing ventures, fishing, for example, in terms of marine ecosystem, if you see, we are not fishing, we are over exploiting the resources. So a lot of species have been lost in this from this planet. So biodiversity, why it is important? Because if you see, only one type of species is all around you, it definitely will get boring. To give you a best example, if all the people around you look just like yourself, how will it feel? Right? Each and every person are looking different, having his own personality, his own traits, whatever, good, bad, whatever characteristics. That gives a different color to the entire world. So it is important to understand that we humans are also a part of this system, and we are not the entire system. So biodiversity, understanding biodiversity is of key importance. Now, if I give you dal chawal every day for all 365 days, morning, evening, dal chawal, how will you feel? And if someday I give you some sweet to eat, or if I give you some sabji to eat, you will definitely feel better. So that is that feel good factor also, which biodiversity brings in our life. So biodiversity is all the different animals, plants, everything around us, which are a part of this complex ecosystem. And to understand this is extremely important, because in our busy lives, we hardly spare any time to look around ourselves and admire this. But when we go to some beautiful hill station, or if we go to any nature reserve, we admire the beauty for that particular moment and then we forget it. But understanding the importance of biodiversity in our day-to-day life is extremely important, not only for just the sake of environment, but it is for our personal health, psychological improvement, and our well-being. So it is
But
extremely
why
important.
should a common man, say for example, a common man who is just going to his regular work, doing a production job or some kind of a IT coder, developer, why is
Yes.
it important for a common man to learn about biodiversity? Why do you think?
Right. So as I told you, it acts as a stress buster also. For example, if you are day and night working on a laptop or doing your IT stuff, you sit by a window, you see a butterfly coming to your window or a small bird coming to your window. You admire it for a minute or so. The kind of mental peace that you get from it, that is
Mm-hmm.
extremely important to de-stress. So whatever on-screen presence is there or whatever time you have spent on screen, if you spare few moments looking at that bird or that butterfly, it definitely, helps you unwind. That is the importance of biodiversity in each and everybody's life. And let me tell you, each and every organization has a particular role to play in this ecosystem, which is what we need to understand and we should respect that. For example, what happens when we see a termite in our home?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we do is we go to the market, get a termite spray and kill it, right? But if the termite is not there, the entire terrestrial ecosystem or the forest will stop functioning. It is that important. It is such a small organism, but it is a keystone species because it is extremely important in nutrient recycling. So when a tree falls on the forest floor, it is the termites who break it down and bring back into the nutrient form, which is
Correct.
made available for the other organizations or the other vegetation. So the importance of this thing is something that we have to understand. Now, just to give you another example of our household creature, that is a wall lizard. What do we do when we see a wall lizard? Either we run around scary, or we try to scare that thing off. But it is very important to know that if you have a wall lizard in your home, then it is your
Mm-hmm.
natural mosquito and your insect controller.
Correct.
So without understanding, we act. And that is where,
Just a question. Do these
yes,
termite killing companies also have to do sustainable reporting?
ideally everyone should do. But see, and reporting is, according to me, is just a tick mark activity until and unless they understand what is sustainability and why they are doing it. That is where it is more important.
So that
See,
is why my
ideally,
question was that
yeah,
biodiversity, I know it is a part of the sustainable reporting, but why is it really a necessity for companies to include biodiversity in their sustainability reporting?
that's a very good question. See, if you see the GRI reporting framework, they have categorically mentioned biodiversity in that. Usually in sustainability reporting, what people do is they report about general environmental parameters, say solid waste they report wastewater, they report about plastic waste, all these things, but hardly anyone reports about biodiversity. The thing is that uh, say, when you are constructing a new organization or your new plant for manufacturing, you do some kind of construction, you do some clearing, you do some felling of trees from that particular place. It is very important to know what kind of tree is that, what kind of local flora fauna it supports, what is the local importance of that tree, whether it is an endemic tree, whether it is a native tree, everything has to be known. Just felling trees and constructing something is is actually not a valuable practice. So why you even if you see now, the European nation and everyone is talking about this biodiversity net gain, wherein they are insisting organizations to assess their baseline biodiversity, whether it is an existing facility or an upcoming facility. So they have to do phase 1 studies. If the organization is already in place, then they have to do the baseline study of that particular premises to understand what is the biodiversity. And then based on that, they have to make a plan or plan for say 3 years, 5 years, wherein they have to show that there is biodiversity net gain at least 10% every year. So this act has ensured that when you do the reporting, you do the assessment, and when you put things in place, you ensure that the local biodiversity is protected. You create some local habitats, micro habitats for the local flora and fauna to flourish. So even if by mistake or by overlooking, by lack of knowledge, you have done some damage to the existing some flora, fauna species over there, that can be corrected, and through these practices, you can restore that. So overall goal, if you see for biodiversity, even India, as you know, India is a mega diverse country. And even though we have 2.8% of the total global land, we have 7 to 8% of the entire biodiversity in our country. We have 10 biogeographic regions wherein all the 7 to 8% of biodiversity is thriving. So if you see, India is a very critical component or critical country in terms of biodiversity. India is the only country in world which has all 5 big cats. No other country, even Africa, it is such a big continent. It has only 3 big cats: the lion, leopard, and the cheetah. Whereas India has lion, leopard, cheetah, tiger, and now and snow leopard also. So all 5 big cats in one country, so highly populated country, still thriving, is something amazing. We have the only population of the Asiatic lion. Nowhere in the world it is found. Right?
And in fact, I think this is
we are the only country with the population of wild buffalo. We are the only country with the population of wild ass.
yeah.
So because of our cultural values and our what you say, traditional systems, this has been possible. Because we revere everything. We have been told, we have been taught that way, that nature is something that has to be worshipped. But now, because of excessive development, because of our urban lifestyle, this connect is lost somewhere. And through our modules and through our these programs, we are trying to reconnect people to that.
And that's exactly I was about to say, that
Yes.
is the exact reason as to why a common man should understand this.
Yes.
And only the moment we start understanding, we realize the importance of these biodiversity, will we really take some actions in our hands. Yeah. So everything starts with first step is of awareness and understanding and educating ourselves. And in today's busy life of everyone, it's important for a moment to pause, understand, rethink, and then move forward. And that is why moving forward will help us to understand the right direction in which we all need to move.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think fantastic. I'm really excited to collaborate and work with EcoJeevan. So, this is just a snippet of what is going to be stored in these modules. And I think we all, the viewers, especially for the organizations, I'm sure there's a lot that we can take, we can learn, and we can adapt in organizations, which will drive a culture of sustainability among the employees. Just a few days back, when I questioned a local employee of a production level, what is sustainability for him? He had absolutely no clue about it. He
Absolutely.
had absolutely no answer to it. He just said, a regular day food salary is what for me is. And that is why what Santosh explained, what Srikant talked about, what Savita talked about, the basic understanding of the term biodiversity, the basic term of understanding of sustainability is where we'll drive actions, is where we'll drive behavioral mindset changes towards adopting these things. And therefore, culturally, an organization will be easier for them to adopt and bring these changes in the organizations as well. So it's very important that we make the employees understand these importance and how it is relevant to their individual lives as well. So I'm really excited on working on these modules, and I'm sure the viewers could always get in touch with us uh, to get in more details and how each one of us can help you in adopting these modules within your organizations. So